Hi, my name's Rowena, and 12 years ago, my family erased me like I was nothing. No calls, no holidays, just gone. Now? They're throwing a wedding like none of it ever happened. But what if I told you the bride stole my future? The groom once humiliated me in a boardroom, and my own mother forged a DNA test to cut me out of the will? The envelope didn't belong in my mailbox. Cream-colored, thick, expensive stock. My name written in calligraphy I hadn't seen in over a decade. But I'd know that handwriting anywhere. My mother's. Even if her name wasn't at the bottom of the card, her presence seeped through the ink like a warning. Inside, gold trim, embossed letters, 2 names. Callamore Desmond Hale. I stared at it so long the edges curled slightly in my hand. Calla, my sister, if you could still call her that, was getting married at the Grand Solace Hotel. That was Seattle royalty territory. Crystal chandeliers, $500 dinners, a waiting list just to breathe near the ballroom. And someone, somehow, thought I should be there. 12 years. 12 years since anyone in that family had said my name without venom. Or silence. And now, a wedding invitation? No note, no apology, no, we miss you. Just a cold summons wrapped in gold foil. Was it a mistake? Number that script was too deliberate. This wasn't an olive branch. It was a setup. I could feel it. My gut twisted as I flipped the card again and again, like maybe the back would explain why they wanted me there. And then I saw it. Desmond Hale. That name sent a small chill down my spine. I knew him. Not well, but enough. We'd met once, years ago, in a boardroom, when I was trying to pitch funding for my startup. He'd been the CFO of a pharmaceutical giant, one of those smug, polished types who looked through you while pretending to listen. He told me my projections were impressive for someone so early in their journey, which was code for, "You're too young, too female, and I don't take you seriously." Now he was marrying my sister. What were the odds? Except I don't believe in odds. I believe in intention. People like my family don't operate by accident. This wasn't a coincidence. It was bait. Glittery, gold-embossed bait. And they didn't think I'd bite. But they forgot one thing. I'm not the same girl they shoved out the front door, with nothing but a duffel bag and a broken heart. That girl's dead. I tossed the envelope onto the counter and walked to the window. Seattle's skyline blinked back at me through the rain-streaked glass. I could see the outline of the Grand Solace from here. Funny, for years I tried to erase them from my life. Now they wanted me back just long enough to smile for the cameras and whisper behind my back. I felt my chest tighten, but it wasn't fear. It was something colder, something focused. They didn't know who I'd become. They didn't know that I'd built something from the nothing they left me with. That I had a husband who believed in me when no one else would. That I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was winning. I opened my closet, reached for a sleek black dress I'd been saving for something that mattered. I ran my fingers over the fabric, clean lines, powerful silhouette. It wasn't bridal, it was war-ready. My phone buzzed, a text from Jareth. "You okay?" I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back, "I'm going to the wedding." Pause. "You sure?" he replied. I didn't hesitate. It's time. This wasn't about closure. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about reclaiming my name, my story, my damn place in the room. They wanted a spectacle. They'd get one, but not the kind they were expecting. I zipped the dress, stepped into my heels, and looked at myself in the mirror. Polished, composed, ruthless. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at their table. I came to flip the damn table over. That night, I couldn't sleep. My body was still, but my mind wouldn't shut up. Jareth was out cold, but I sat by the window, city lights flickering below, clutching the invitation like it might bite. So the next morning, I did what I always do when my head gets too loud. I walked. Pike Place was just waking up, crates clattering, espresso hissing, the air thick with fish and bread and tulips. It should have calmed me. Instead, it took me back. Back to being 16, second-hand cardigan, hoping someone, anyone, would believe me. It was the day my mother's diamond necklace disappeared. I wasn't supposed to be in her room. Calla left the curling iron on again, and I got blamed. I went in to unplug it. That's it. 10 minutes later, my father's voice boomed through the house. "She was the only one in there," Calla said, fake tears and all. My mother didn't even pause. "You've always been selfish," she snapped, "and now this." But my dad, that look in his eyes, like I was something he couldn't wash off. "Disappointment follows you like a shadow," he muttered. They never found the necklace. Not in my room, not anywhere. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. I wasn't punished. I was erased. Dinner alone, no rides, no friends. Just silence. And Calla, smirking in the hallway, like the universe had finally aligned in her favor. That's when I learned the truth. In my family, image mattered more than facts, and they'd already picked their golden child. College was supposed to be my reset. It wasn't. It started with whispers. Then, one day, my roommate shoved her phone in my face. "Did you see this?" A student blog post. "The real Rowena Clade. The girl who lies, steals, and plays the victim." No author, of course. But the tone? I knew it like a scar. She manipulates professors. Ask her about the necklace her family never got back. My stomach dropped. My inbox dried up. Project partners vanished. A professor pulled me aside. "Perception matters." I wanted to scream, but I'd learned, it doesn't matter what's true, just what people think is. That post cost me a research grant. Almost made me quit school. I couldn't prove it was Calla, but I knew. She didn't just want to win. She needed me to lose. I thought I'd moved on. Buried all that. Until last night. Until that envelope reopened the wound that never really healed. Back home, I pulled up the old blog. Didn't think it would still be live. It was. Still online. Still poisonous. No tears this time, just fire. "They never cleaned up the mess," I whispered. "They never thought I'd come back to find it." I screenshotted everything. Saved server data. This wasn't nostalgia. This was evidence. Because that 16-year-old girl, the one they silenced, she'd been waiting, watching, growing teeth. And now I've got the shovel. The irony hit hard the next morning. I wasn't even looking for it, just sipping coffee, half awake, scrolling through emails, when a LinkedIn notification popped up. Congrats to alumna Calla Moore for her groundbreaking research featured in the Leaders in Wellness Spotlight. My stomach dropped. I clicked the article, already bracing for impact. Sustainable Solutions in Community-Based Nutritional Support. My title, word for word. The phrases. The model. The exact conclusion I spent months refining. Every line lifted, scrubbed of my name, and stamped with hers. There she was, beaming beside the article, polished, radiant, like life had only ever handed her green lights. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered. But of course she wasn't. Calla had always gotten away with it. And our parents? They'd just nod, beam, and say, "She's gifted, honey. Maybe take notes." They never asked where her talent came from. Back in college, I was barely staying afloat, tutoring at sunrise, stocking shelves past midnight, living off cold ramen and campus Wi-Fi. My thesis was everything. 8 months of work, a nutritional model for underserved neighborhoods, built from real community data. One night, Calla dropped by, said she was just in the area. I was exhausted, proud, starving for validation. "I think this could actually win something," I told her. "Maybe even that Women in Health Sciences scholarship." She smiled. Too soft, too sweet. "Wow, you did all this?" I should have known. A week later, my research folder vanished from the student drive. IT found nothing, no log, no trace. I submitted an old backup, half done. It bombed. Guess who won the scholarship? Calla Moore, they announced at the spring gala. My name wasn't even listed. She waved. My parents clapped in the front row. Someone behind me muttered, "She's just on another level." I smiled like I wasn't breaking in half. I never told anyone. Who would believe me? The tired, angry sister? The girl barely passing biostats? She earned it, Mom said when I brought it up. She works harder than you think, Dad added. You could learn from her. I did. Now, 10 years later, I printed the LinkedIn article and slid it into a manila folder, already thick with receipts. Screenshots of her anonymous blog posts, suspicious transcripts, sketchy financial records. That fake smile she wears like it's bulletproof. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proof. For me. To know I hadn't imagined it. That the lies were real. That they didn't forget me. They erased me. I added a sticky note to the folder. This is where her story ends. Still, I didn't comment. Didn't forward it. Didn't say a word. I waited. Because I've learned, when someone sets a trap for you, the smartest move is to pretend you didn't see it. Then show up anyway. Let them shine. Let them get comfortable. I'll be the one holding the switch when the lights go out. She wore the crown, but I built the throne. And now, I'm coming to take it back. I didn't expect an old photo album to rattle me. It was just supposed to be part of the prep, gathering context, gathering proof. But as I clicked through a buried Facebook album titled More Family Memories, something snapped loose in my chest. It was the smiles that gave it away. Too white, too perfect. Each frame felt like a page from a catalog. Holiday sweaters in forced harmony, Easter brunches with pastel lies. The background changed, but the script never did. And she was always at the center. Vivian. My mother didn't smile. She presented. Her jaw was always tight, her eyes rehearsed. Even back then, she made it look easy to stage a perfect life while making sure no one saw the blood under her nails. Her words rang in my ears, that same tired phrase she tossed around like air freshener. We don't air our family's mess in public. Right. We just bury it under matching napkins and crystal goblets. I used to think she just didn't love me. But now I see it clearer than ever. She didn't hate me. She managed me. Like a campaign manages its scandals. She had always been the one pulling strings. Not in bursts of rage, but with a scalpel. Clean, precise, always in control. My father may have delivered the harsh words, and Kala the stabs in the back. But the choreography? The way our family twisted around appearances and silence and shame? That was all Vivian, and I had danced to her tune for far too long. One memory in particular wouldn't let go. I was 14. We were at a gala for the hospital foundation. I'd practiced my little speech for weeks. Nothing big, just a thank you on behalf of the Moore girls. Something about community and opportunity. I stood there in a borrowed dress that itched at the seams, trying to remember the words. I stumbled. Not even badly, just lost my place for a second. I saw her smile tighten like a crack in glass. After I walked off stage, she grabbed my arm. Hard. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? She hissed through clenched teeth. My fingers went numb from her grip, but her face never changed for the cameras. When we got home, she didn't yell, she cut. You made us look careless. If you can't perform, you shouldn't volunteer. Kala would have never embarrassed me like that. That was the night I stopped performing for her. But some part of me kept hoping she'd notice me anyway. Maybe that's the cruelest part, when you stop expecting love but still ache for approval. I closed the photo album and opened a document I hadn't touched in months. The file labeled Family Patterns. It wasn't evidence, not legally. But it was proof. My proof. The interviews Kala gave over the years, they echoed phrases Vivian used constantly growing up. Excellence is the bare minimum. Real strength is staying quiet under pressure. It wasn't just coincidence. Vivian didn't raise Kala. She wrote her. She didn't favor Kala because she loved her more. She favored her because Kala played the role better. Compliant, camera ready, willing to be molded. Me? I asked questions. I broke choreography. I refused to smile when it felt fake. So she tried to snip me out of the frame. Well, not anymore. I added more to the folder. Photos, clips, articles. Then I opened a new email window and paused. The cursor blinked. You taught me to be silent, I whispered. the words bitter on my tongue. Now you'll hear everything I've held back. I typed slowly, deliberately. Subject line: regarding Moore family reputation. I attached my notes, a handful of curated records, and a short summary. Then I sent it. The recipient? A journalist named Becca Lane. We'd worked together once, years ago, when I helped her expose corruption at a supplement chain. She owed me a favor. She also had no problem burning powerful families to the ground. I didn't need her to publish anything. Not yet. But I needed her to know the story was real. Because if my mother taught me anything, it was how to keep your face still while everything behind it burns. But she forgot one thing. I learned how to weaponize silence. She taught me how to smile through pain, but forgot I learned how to weaponize silence. I thought I'd unearthed every secret there was to find. But then came the envelope. No return address, no handwriting I recognized. Just a plain white envelope in my mailbox, sealed with purpose. Inside, folded neatly between two generic sheets of copier paper, was a DNA report. At first, I didn't process it. I skimmed the header. Private Genetic Screening, Pacific Diagnostics, 2015. Then my eyes locked onto the result at the bottom. Inconclusive maternal match. My heart stuttered. I read it again. And again. The name listed under subject was mine. Rowena Clade. The maternal sample? Vivian Moore. I felt the floor shift under me. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. Heat flushed through my chest, my skin cold and clammy. No stamp, no note. Just that one phrase. Inconclusive. I sat down, hard. It was fake. I knew it in my bones. But that didn't matter. Not when it had already done its damage. I opened my old records drawer, the one I almost never looked at. Buried under tax returns and expired IDs was the last legal correspondence I'd received from the Moore estate's attorney. A scanned copy of the revised will, dated just 6 months after that DNA report. My name, gone. I wasn't just cut out of the will, I was erased from the lineage. This wasn't just banishment, this was extermination. Vivian didn't want me to walk away. She wanted to burn the bridge so thoroughly that even the ashes couldn't whisper my name. That day, I remembered something I hadn't let myself revisit in years. It was 2016. I was 23. I'd called the family lawyer, more out of desperation than hope, asking about my grandfather's inheritance, the one he'd once told me I'd receive, no matter what your mother thinks. I never got a call back. Weeks later, the accountant emailed me with a single line. You are not listed as a beneficiary on file. I assumed it was punishment, that they were still angry I'd left without a goodbye. I blamed myself. Now I know the truth. My own mother manufactured a lie so clinical, so clean, no one questioned it. Why would they? People believe paperwork. They believe doctors and seals and signatures. They don't believe daughters who were always difficult. But Vivian forgot one thing. Lies leave trails. And I've learned to follow them. With Jareth's help, we tracked the clinic. Pacific Diagnostics had closed 3 years after that report was dated. No surprise, it turned out to be a shell company, flagged for financial irregularities. One of the doctors listed on the form had his license revoked for falsifying lab results. A payment surfaced, $5,000 wired to a private P.O. box weeks before the report was filed. The sender? Vivian Moore. She didn't just want to forget you, Jareth said quietly, his hand resting on my back. She wanted the world to forget you ever existed. I didn't cry. I expected to, but something inside me had already died long before the paperwork showed up. I was done grieving. This wasn't the kind of hurt you wept over. This was the kind of betrayal you sharpened into strategy. That night, I sat at my desk, pulled out my laptop, and began drafting a message. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a plea. It was a reckoning. Clean, final, impossible to misread. Subject, I know. I wrote, I know about the test. I know about the lie. And I'm done playing the daughter you tried to delete. I paused. then added one last line. Undo it, or I'll do it publicly. No threats, no theatrics, just truth with a spine. I hit send, and I smiled, because for the first time in years, the silence that followed wasn't mine to carry. She tried to erase my name, but now, the grand solace shimmered like a lie made of glass, too perfect, too polished, like no one inside had ever tasted shame, which made it the perfect stage. I walked through the lobby with my head high, wearing a navy silk dress that clung just right, backless and unapologetic. I didn't come to blend in. I came to be seen. The ballroom doors swung open, and just like that, every eye in the room landed on me. The hum of conversation faltered. A few gasps. Champagne flutes paused mid-air. Vivian's hand twitched, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening around her crystal stem. Her face didn't break, but her eyes said everything. She wasn't supposed to come. Calla looked up from her seat near the stage. Her smile strained. It cracked at the edges, like something brittle left out in the cold too long. And Desmond, God, Desmond! His jaw clenched the second he saw me, like memory hit him harder than he expected. I took a slow step forward, then another, letting the quiet stretch. You didn't expect me to RSVP, I said, voice even, eyes locked on my mother. I didn't. I just arrived. I wasn't here for forgiveness. I was here for the reckoning. Dinner continued, but the air stayed heavy. The clinking of silverware sounded like distant thunder. People whispered, pretending not to stare, but they all did. The toast began. Calla's best friend stood, glass raised, gushing about love, resilience, destiny. I let her finish, let the polite applause settle. Then I stood. I'd like to say a few words, I announced, stepping up beside the speaker. Calla's smile dropped like a shutter. I held up my glass. To truth, I said, letting the pause hang like a blade. And those who fake it. The silence was instant. Even the music stopped. I turned to my sister. Calla, I said sweetly, where exactly did you earn your MD? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Just a stammer, a slight shake of the head. I only ask, I continued, pulling a small folder from my clutch, because this transcript you submitted to the Health Advisory Board, it's interesting. I handed it to Desmond, who accepted it without a word. It says you graduated with honors from Pacific University. Problem is, the course codes don't match their curriculum, and you never submitted a final capstone. Also, your GPA inflated. By quite a bit. Calla's voice finally cracked through the tension. This is insane. This is not the time or place. Vivian stood then, her voice sharp, trying to take control. Enough of this. Rowena, if you had an ounce of class. I turned to her, calm as ice. Class? You forged a DNA test to disinherit me. Sit down. Gasps spread like wildfire. I looked back at Calla. You built your entire career on a lie, a medical lie, while real people trusted you, believed in your expertise. Desmond's hands trembled as he scanned the document. He looked up at her slowly. Is this true? Calla didn't answer. She couldn't. He dropped the papers onto the table and stepped back. I defended you, he said, voice low and tight. God, I defended you to everyone. Calla reached for him. Des, baby, please don't let her ruin this. She didn't ruin it, he snapped. You did. And with that, he walked out. Calla tried to follow, but no one moved with her. The room remained still. Her audience evaporated. Her perfect image cracked under the weight of her silence. I didn't stay for dessert. I walked out of that ballroom without a glance back. Outside, the night air was crisp, cold against my skin, but I welcomed it. I breathed it in like clarity. My phone buzzed in my bag. A voicemail. I didn't need to listen. I already knew the tone. Tight, venomous, calculated. Vivian always did hate losing control. I deleted it without opening it. Above me, the sky stretched dark and open. I looked up and smiled. That was just the beginning. I didn't tremble. I didn't second guess. They built a house of mirrors, and I just threw the first stone. The message landed in my inbox at 6:14 a.m. No subject line, no sender name I recognized. Just one sentence. I remember you. You deserve to know what really happened with Kala's suspension. My pulse kicked. I clicked. An attachment loaded. A redacted hospital incident report dated back to 2017. Patient. Male, age 9. Diagnosis. Mild asthma. Overnight observation. Outcome. Induced coma due to incorrect dosage of epinephrine. Attending. Dr. Kala Moore. Status. Case dismissed. No charges filed. No charges. No accountability. Just a buried scandal and a clean slate. I blinked at the screen, barely breathing. Attached to the email was a short note. She wasn't supposed to be near a pediatric floor, but they pulled strings. I couldn't say anything back then, but maybe you can now. My hands trembled, then steadied. This wasn't just about me anymore. I saved the files, encrypted them twice, and moved. Fast. By noon, an anonymous tip landed in the inbox of 3 independent Seattle health watchdog blogs, the kind of outlets that thrived on whistleblowers and weren't afraid of lawsuits. I didn't sign my name, I didn't need to, but I also didn't stop there. I opened a new message. To Dr. Thomas Kellner. Subject, More residency reinstatement. Clarification needed. Would you like to clarify how your star resident was reinstated without a formal hearing after a pediatric incident with long-term trauma effects? I'm attaching records you may have forgotten to review. I didn't need him to reply. The silence from institutions is always louder than their words. By the following morning, Kala's profile was scrubbed from the hospital's website. Social media lit up like a spark to dry leaves. Dr. Kala Moore removed from pediatric center list. Why? Unconfirmed rumors about malpractice in 2017 resurface. I watched from my laptop, coffee in hand, the way one might observe a building being demolished. Controlled, necessary, satisfying. At 3:42 p.m., Vivian showed up at my door. She didn't knock, she pounded. I opened it calmly, stepped aside. You've gone too far, she hissed, barely inside. This is your sister's wedding week. This is accountability week, I said, arms crossed. You're destroying her life. She put a child in a coma. No charges were filed. Because you made sure of that. Her eyes flared. You don't understand the pressure she was under. No, you don't get to twist this into some sad little pity story. You protected her lies and buried a family's pain just to keep your name clean. Her hand trembled as she pointed at me. You always wanted to be the martyr. But this? This is disgusting. And what do you call what you did to me? I asked, voice steady. You faked a DNA test. You let them believe I didn't belong in my own family. You made me invisible. And now you're mad I finally made myself seen. She stared at me, breathing heavy, fury pouring off her in waves. Behind her in the hallway, I noticed Gregory. Quiet. Still. For once, not defending, not posturing, just absorbing. His silence said more than his words ever could. You think this makes you powerful? Vivian snapped. You think being vindictive makes you righteous? No, I said, walking to the door and opening it wide. But telling the truth makes me free. She didn't move. I won't be quiet again, I added. So unless you came here to confess something, you can leave. For a long moment, she stood there. And then, without a word, she walked out. I closed the door behind her, turned, and exhaled. I called the number from the email. The nurse, her name was Teresa, picked up after 3 rings. I wanted to say thank you, I said. There was a pause. Then her voice, soft but firm. Someone had to speak up. I just didn't expect it would be the sister. Neither did they, I replied. This wasn't revenge. This was justice they thought would never come, and it's only just arrived. The file landed on my desk like a quiet detonation. It wasn't printed on heavy stock paper or stamped in red. It was simple, clean. Legal audit results compiled by Jareth's firm. Neatly organized, with tabs and dates. No dramatics, just devastating facts. Wire transfers from the Moore Family Clinic. Reimbursements, medical equipment purchases, charitable donations. Every last one tagged under my name. Payee, Rowena Clade. There were IRS filings in years I hadn't earned a dime. Returns I never submitted. Refunds I never saw. The first transaction dated back to when I was 19, living on energy bars and sharing a studio apartment with 2 roommates and a mold problem. I didn't have a credit card, let alone a reason for a $42,000 medical consulting fee. They used me as a shield while I was eating ramen in a shared basement, I muttered, voice dry. Jareth stood behind me, arms crossed. They tied your identity to at least 4 shell accounts. If this hadn't been flagged in a forensic sweep, the IRS would have come for you next year. I couldn't speak. There's a difference between being abandoned and being exploited. One leaves you hurt. The other leaves you gutted. They didn't just cast me out. They built a financial firewall from the ashes of my existence. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I moved. Because I finally had the final brick, and I was going to take the whole damn tower down with it. The Moore Foundation Gala was black tie, media heavy, crawling with donors and legacy families. I didn't have an invite. I didn't need one. I wore black. Slipped in through a side entrance, past catering trays and wine lists, and the rot of polished corruption. Gregory was mid-speech when I walked onto the stage. The room hushed like someone had pulled a fire alarm. He blinked, confused, until recognition dawned. Vivian froze mid-sip. Calla flinched. I smiled, microphone in hand. "Before you donate tonight," I said, slow and calm, "you might want to know where your money's been going." Gasps echoed as I handed a USB drive to the AV tech behind me. Screens around the ballroom flickered, then filled with spreadsheets, emails, bank logs. One labeled file read, Rowena Clade Consulting. Beneath it, a signature, G. Moore. People murmured. A few stood. One donor's wife whispered, "Is that her real daughter?" Vivian turned pale. Gregory reached for the mic. "This is a mistake. These documents. This is clearly doctored." "Actually," a voice said from the crowd, "they're not." Jareth. He stepped forward, suit crisp, expression unreadable. "Our firm submitted the originals to the IRS and the State Attorney General." Gregory's mouth snapped shut. Then Desmond appeared beside him. "And to the medical board," he added, "because I won't stand behind frauds anymore." Vivian tried to salvage it. She reached for Calla, but Calla pulled her hand away, glaring. "How could you drag me into this?" she hissed. Row by row, the audience turned on them. The once perfect Moore family, Seattle's elite, unraveled in front of donors, press, and legacy families. Right there under the chandeliers they loved so much. I didn't flinch, didn't move, just stood there in the storm of their collapse, steady as stone. They had the money, the status, the lies, but I had the truth. And it was louder than all of them. I didn't wait for the fallout. I didn't linger for applause. I walked out. Outside, the air was cold but clean, the kind of crispness that made everything before feel suffocating. My heart pounded, not from nerves, but from release. This moment wasn't revenge. It wasn't fury. It was peace. It was truth, finally unchained. I looked up at the sky, the city skyline twinkling like it was in on the secret with me. "And truth," I whispered, "is finally enough." I wasn't trying to destroy them. I just stopped protecting them, and they did the rest. 2 weeks later, my world was quiet. Not the eerie kind of silence that follows an explosion. Not the numb, shell-shocked stillness that feels like it's waiting for something else to fall apart. This was peace. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom window. For once, I didn't wake up dreading a phone call, a headline, or a lawyer's letter. No reporter had camped outside. No call from Vivian. Not even a burner text from Calla. Just air, still and clean. I padded barefoot to the balcony, coffee in hand, robe loose around my waist. The city below kept moving, but up here, it felt like time paused for me. Is this what healing feels like? Not a roar. A hum. I sipped my coffee and let it settle into me. The old Rowena would have second-guessed it. Waited for the other shoe. Searched the sky for signs of smoke. But not this time. Because nothing was left to burn. I still hadn't deleted the voicemail. I don't know why. Her voice crackled slightly. Too tight. Too furious. You've humiliated us. You'll regret this. I don't know who you think you are, but you will answer for what you've done. But it was the last line that stayed with me. Not the words. The sound. A catch in her throat. Almost like pain. Almost. It wasn't an apology. Not even close. It was still control, even now. Still spinning her narrative, even in defeat. But it didn't sting anymore. Calla never called. Not a single text, not even a fake, "Are you happy now?" voicemail. I didn't expect her to. Desmond, though, surprised me. He sent one message. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time before typing back, "I know. I believe you. But I don't need anything from you anymore." And I meant it. Letting go doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it just comes with choice. Gregory's medical license was under suspension. The clinic was frozen, pending a full investigation. IRS audit teams had started combing through 12 years of reports. Vivian had gone dark. No interviews, no charity appearances, no statements. And Calla? Word was, she left the city. Quietly, probably hoping to rebuild somewhere no one knew her name. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't anything. I was watching. Because when people fall, it's easy to cheer or pity. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply witness. That's enough for me. That afternoon, I walked into my office downtown. My staff, my people, smiled, greeted me with warmth, respect, no fear, no gossip, just community. Miriam showed up that evening, my first real boss, the one who handed me a broom instead of a lecture when I was 17 and homeless. She brought flowers, sunflowers actually. "You made it out," she said, her voice cracking just slightly. "I had to," I told her. There was no air left in there. Jareth took my hand across the dinner table that night. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. "You did what no one else could, Ro," he said finally. "You gave them every chance. And when they still chose power over love, you didn't let them take you down with them." I nodded, too full to speak. Not with food, with clarity. Because I had spent years thinking justice had to look like punishment. But maybe it looks like release. And maybe freedom doesn't always come with forgiveness, but it comes. And when it does, it feels like standing barefoot in sunlight, with no one else deciding your story for you. They may never say sorry, but I no longer need to hear it. I am free. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. Not fireworks, not dramatic finales. Just waking up and realizing you're no longer fighting to be seen, heard, or loved by people who only ever wanted to shape you into something they could control. If my story touched something in you, if you've ever been silenced, cast aside, or made to feel like your worth depended on someone else's approval, I want you to hear this. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to keep carrying the weight they dropped on you. You don't have to protect those who never protected you. You are allowed to speak up, to step away, to rebuild. And yes, even to thrive without ever hearing, "I'm sorry," because forgiveness is powerful, but freedom? Freedom is everything. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where walking away was the bravest thing you did? Or maybe you're still holding on. What's stopping you from letting go? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. If this story hit home for you, type 1 in the comments so I know it reached the right hearts. If it didn't resonate, I'd still love to hear why and where you're tuning in from. Your voice matters, your story matters. And you're not alone. If you want more stories like this, real, raw, and rooted in truth, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story to remind us we still get to write our own. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a narration script or animated scene voiceover.